We are so excited to share the first of many Genius Gen Talk webinars. And our plan is to have a variety of information shared not only from a small business perspective, but also inclusive of educational data as well. And we thought this was an opportunity for us to stay connected and become a resource during these unprecedented times. And we decided our presence in support of our current customers, as well as any future clients, by sharing our unique position in the marketplace today. We recognized that we could share an insight perspective from a creator and a manufacturer standpoint of Vital Body products, as well as experience in owning and running a small business and spa themselves. As such, I'd like to give a glimpse of the agenda for today and what you can expect for the next 60 minutes. So we're going to look at the first 15 minutes will be 3 questions that we thought that collectively most of you would have for us. We'll kick that off. That'll be the first 15. And then the 30 minutes will be, of course, the PowerPoint presentation done by Jen that she actually shared and presented to her team in preparing for reopening. And then the last 15 minutes, of course, I'm sorry? And the last 15 minutes, we're going to leave open for the Q&A. So if you could, again, I know Sam just shared that, but if you could hold off on your questions until you can pop them in if you want to, but they'll be answered at the very end so we can just keep it streamlined and keep the presentation moving. And first of all, I'd like to provide a little bit of background on Jen, and we should start with her history in wellness and as well as an alternative healing methods. Jen became a massage therapist in 2002 and working in both the spa and clinical settings. And she said developed curriculum for massage certification courses and taught at many, many advanced massage training workshops. And in 2011, she co-founded the Vital Body Therapy Spa with Kelly Stoll. And together they've been on a mission basically to educate people about the value of body work and alternative medicine. Jennifer and Kelly spent years gathering data from their clients about their experiences using CBD to treat pain and inflammation. And with their knowledge coupled with their passion and skill for curating custom formulated massage creams, they created Vital Body Therapeutics CBD line of body care products. Outside of the coast of co-owning the spa, Jennifer happens to be the COO of Vital Body Therapeutics and oversees the operations, product formulations, and development. Both her and Kelly are devoted to bringing wellness and integrity, quality, and of course, efficacy in the products that we produce. Now, to kick off our program, our team would like to ask Jen just 3 top questions that we felt like would be collective from everyone. And I guess the first, Jen, would be, what was the biggest challenge to the business since the closure of the spa?
Oh, well, there were many, as I'm sure you are all very well aware of. Well, first and foremost, it was really, we were just really concerned about the health and well-being of our staff. Obviously, immediately after the closure, there was a lot of fear and anxiety about not only their health and safety, but their financial well-being, their financial stability. So it was a challenge, certainly, trying to both keep our own, myself and Kelly, keep our own heads above water so that we could really stay strong and be leaders for our team. That was certainly one of the biggest challenge. And then obviously the financial impact, you know, it was very, especially as we started to learn how long this would appear to go on. And now that being without pretty much any revenue on that side of the business, that has been very, very concerning. We've just managed to pivot and just look at other things that we can do. It's really boosted our creativity to think outside the box and drum up ways to increase the revenue stream in order to just keep us going so that we're still here when it's time to reopen. So those have been a few of the biggest challenges.
That's great. Thank you, Jen. We had another question. How have you communicated with your team during these times?
Well, certainly right after the closure, lots of emails. I would basically did a check-in immediately after, updated everybody, as the legislation was passed. First, the FFCRA, the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, was passed, and then the CARES Act was passed. I followed that legislation very closely and did my best to communicate to my team what I understood about them, about those pieces of legislation and how that related to them, as well as information about unemployment claims. I also reassured them that we would be responding as quickly as possible to any claims that did come in, so as not to hold up their benefit processing. And then my general manager has stayed on staff with us, so she has also stayed in very close communication with the team as well. So that's been very helpful. And we have actually held a couple of Zoom happy hours, really just as a way to connect everybody, say hello, touch base, see how everybody's doing, and try to just let them know that, we're still thinking about them and give them the opportunity to connect with each other as well.
Thank you, Jen, so much. I'm sure everyone on this webinar would agree that the questions and answers are what most leaders are facing. And so with that being said, with no further ado, Jen, I'm passing the mic to you.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate it. And I'm so happy that you guys are all here with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. And I hope that my hours and hours and hours of research and reading, will help to serve you as well. So we recently offered this online training to our staff. This was a mandatory training for the entire staff to return to work. As I said, we are projecting, we don't know for certain when we will be allowed to reopen, but we are projecting early to mid-June right now. So we wanted to get this ready and have everybody gone through the training with ample time prior to us reopening. So I drew on a couple of excellent resources, which I will include at the end of this presentation. ISPA put out that's the International Spa Professionals Association. They put out a really great reopening toolkit. ABMP also put a back to practice guide on their website. That's the American Bodywork and Massage Professionals. So I really drew a lot on those two resources to act as the foundation for this training. Of course, I also have been paying very close attention to CDC guidelines, state and local health department guidelines, in order to make sure that we are just really doing our very best to reopen safely. So I'm going to share this presentation that I offered to my team. And, we hope that you can use that as a template for yourself. Obviously, our situation might be a bit different than yours. We focus pretty heavily on therapeutic body work in our practice, so a lot of orthopedic massage, injury treatment. That might not be exactly true for your spa, but regardless of what type of practice you have, I think that these resources will be valuable to you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my glasses on so I can actually see what I'm looking at here. I'm going to share my screen with you. So we're going to walk you through this. All right. Here we go. So we started off with an agenda to kind of get everybody on the same page about what we were going to be covering. This is Tallulah. Tallulah is a character that I introduced into the presentation. It was really important to me to try to keep the mood light a bit. That's very tough to do in these very uncertain and scary times. So I wanted my team to be able to laugh a little bit as we walked through all this. So here's Tallulah. She's going to be making some guest appearances throughout the presentation. But the agenda for the presentation is I gave everybody an update on our reopening timeframe. Again, I don't have a firm date, but wanted to give people a sense of when that might be happening. The safety and sanitation preparations we've been doing at our spa. The requirements for both our clients and staff in order to be on site, either giving or receiving massage. Few amendments we've had to make to our services and scheduling protocol, and then new protocols for the flow of the services, both at the time of booking, pre, mid, and post session. And then just some other general safety and cleaning protocols, as well as communications that we have with our clients, to kind of keep them informed about where we're at. And then I left time at the end of our presentation for a Q&A as well for the team. So up first, obviously everybody wanted to know when we're going to be opening. Tallulah, as you can see, she's had enough of it. So here in California, we are currently in stage 2 of the reopening timeline. Governor Newsom has put together a pandemic roadmap for reopening. There are certain counties that do have the authority to open sooner, but if they provide containment plans to the state. But our county, we're still right on the same timeline with the rest of California. So we are considered a high-risk business, which is kind of funny to think about. Think of massage and spa services as high risk, huh? And again, our projection is early to mid-June. So we have done a lot of preparations at the spa. Right after we closed, our general manager did a deep clean of the spa, thorough sanitizing. I bought a lot of supplies, EPA registered cleaning supplies, aprons for the MTs. We are switching to having them wear aprons that they're going to change out after every session. And then kind of other things that I wouldn't have thought about, but trash cans with lids. So put those in all the treatment rooms and in the kitchen, the break room. I also bought some mesh caddies, very small caddies, to have in each room so that the therapist can use those to transport the laundry downstairs rather than having that bundle of linens up close to their chest. So that was just something that I wouldn't have thought about probably unless I think I read it in one of those guides. We are temporarily going to switch to paper cups for our guests at the spa. And then tip envelopes. We hadn't previously really used those. The clients would usually leave cash at the desk, but we felt this would be just one more little way to avoid excessive handling of cash and having direct contact. So those are a few of the things that we do. Oh, we also switched to touchless soap and paper towel dispensers. We put air purifiers in all of the treatment rooms and the waiting room. So those are some of the things that we did to prepare. See, Tallulah is very excited about all that cleaning that our manager did. Here's a little shot of, this is not what it looks like now. Little shot of the spa cleaning in action. Kayla, our manager, kept herself quite busy doing this. So it looks amazing now. We're very ready to have people return. So here's an example of some of the signage I created. There's going to be signs everywhere. So we'll have these two on the right. These will be at the front door. I bought kind of a stand-up sign for our guests to view prior to coming in. We are requiring our guests to wear masks when they come in. And then that flyer on the far right, that was one of those provided by iSpa. So in that reopening toolkit, they have an array of flyers that you can download and actually customize to your spa. And of course, signs regarding social distancing. In our spa, we have room for about 3 people in the waiting room to allow for that 6 feet of distance. And then we have a room for 2 more people on the porch. So just making sure that we're doing our best to enforce all of those guidelines that we are probably all very familiar with by now. So that's an example of some of the signage. I'll go back a bit. In addition to those, we also have door hangers that will go on every single treatment room door and the bathrooms, basically indicating that the room has been sanitized. And we're also going to request that, or ask that guests hang their clothes on the hooks now rather than on the furniture. So I created signs for those as well. You'll see those later in the presentation. So here's some of the policies that we've set for both our staff and our guests. Obviously, clients or staff may not arrive if they have any of the COVID-19 symptoms. Again, you're probably all pretty well aware of those by now. We do also have a lot of signs. We have signs up in the bathrooms as well, the CDC guidelines and information flyers. So we also want to make sure that people are not coming in if they've even been in contact with anyone within the last 2 weeks who has either been diagnosed or who even has coronavirus type symptoms. So the temperature issue, I'm sure this is going to be a frequently discussed issue. So we're basically asking our staff to self-monitor and take their temperatures prior to arriving at work. We debated the idea of doing temperature checks for guests. I did some research into this, and everything that I read really pointed a lot to those thermal temperature readers, the touchless sort of handheld ones, as not being particularly accurate. So I felt that taking all the other precautions that we are not going to do the temperature checks. That may change. So feel free to weigh in on that. I'm sure everybody's got some differing opinions about that. We are requiring the guests to wear masks. The staff have to wear masks at all times, therapists, desk staff, everyone. We had a discussion about the guests. This is going to be a big question, and especially for all you estheticians out there or spa directors who, you have that as a service. We do not offer skincare services. So the question then is really having the clients wear masks during the duration of the massage. So I spoke with my team about it. We are saying that our current policy is that the guest needs to wear the mask and up until essentially the time they get on the table. But the conversation about the mask wearing is going to be handled during the intake with the therapist. We will be letting our guests know that basically the therapist or the guest both, the therapist has the right to certainly request that the guest wear the mask during the duration of the massage. Most of my team felt they would be comfortable with the guest not wearing it face down, but that putting it on when they turned face up. Or the other option, which one of you actually emailed us ahead of time to suggest or ask about only doing sideline work for head and neck work. So that's another option as well. Again, this policy might shift. We're going to kind of wait and see. We might wait and see how other people weigh in. We obviously are watching the, like I said, the health authority guidelines as well. So that may change, but right now I'm anticipating that it will only be required right up until they get on the table, and then very likely when they turn face up. We are doing a new health screening questionnaire and disclaimer to be filled out by every client prior to the start of their service. And I'll show you an example of that when we get to the next screen. Cancellation fees will also be waived for illness. We really want to make sure that clients are not coming in, maybe they feel a little off and they really don't want to get charged that cancellation fee. Well, we don't want to run into that problem. So for the time being, we are waiving cancellation fees regardless of what time they cancel, even if it's same day. Those are some of our policies. And like I said, I'll go over those waivers and screening questionnaires in just a bit here. So these are some of the changes that we're making to our services and scheduling. We're now staggering our appointments 30 minutes. We already had a 15-minute buffer at our spa, but we're now pushing that to 30 minutes between appointments. so that the rooms can be very thoroughly sanitized, so that the therapist has more time to scrub their hands and arms, elbows. We're also staggering our staff start time 15 minutes. We have 4 treatment rooms. So this will allow 2 people to start at one time, and then 15 minutes later, we'll have 2 other people start to help mitigate contact between the therapists, really trying to keep enough space to allow for some distance. Previously, we would ask our clients to arrive, anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes early. We're now asking them to arrive no more than 5 minutes early, again, to mitigate any direct contact that they're having with other people. We will no longer be offering hot packs at the start of the service. That was a little yummy extra thing we always did when our clients arrived, but it just would be too difficult to constantly be taking those covers off and washing between. We won't be offering any same room couples massage, again, in order to maintain the distance between the therapists. There's just not enough space to do that. We have an add-on service called the face rejuvenation. We are no longer going to offer that service because of the face touching. We are actually saying no touching the client's face unless they request it, perhaps for jaw work or some trigger point work. And if they do, then the gloves would be required. So I'm guessing that might be an approach that all you estheticians out there might be doing, is wearing gloves for your services. But I'm not exactly sure how you would have them wear a mask while you're trying to work on their face. So I would be curious to know, what your thoughts on that are. We also offer a hand and foot wrap, which we typically use a cloth inner liner. Then that goes into a warming wrap. We've decided we're just going to switch to plastic liners for the time being. Not as environmentally, not as eco-friendly, of course, but we can't. We just really want to make sure that we can keep those mitts perfectly sanitized between appointments. So here we go. Here's our service protocols from booking to checkout. Tallulah has decided to get herself a massage. She really should have left those shoes downstairs, though. I think her therapist is judging her a little bit there. Okay, so here is the start of the appointment. So we do online booking as well. So when the when the desk staff calls to do reminders, they have sort of both a booking and reminder call script that we will have at the front desk. Obviously, again, to point out to the guests that not to come to their appointment if they have any of those symptoms, not to come to the appointment if they've been in close contact with anyone for that 2 weeks. We still want to reiterate that, we do request a 24-hour cancellation. However, that there will not be a cancellation fee should they need to cancel for being ill at any time. We'll inform the guests about the requirement to wear masks and to assure them that the staff will be wearing masks for their entire visit. We're also making the suggestion that they bring their own water bottle. Most of our clients do, but just to kind of help cut down on the usage of the paper cups. And then also informing them about when to arrive and where they can wait, and reassuring them that we are doing our best to make sure that we can maintain 6 feet of distance and to limit contact with other clients. Also letting them know that they're welcome to wait on the front porch and we will come get them. We have our spa is in a beautiful Victorian home, so we have a lovely front porch for them to wait on, which is nice. So that is our booking script. So this is the health information and liability waiver that every client will be required to sign. Ask them questions again about the COVID screening questions. Also, just an additional, you'll see down here, an additional consent. This is really a liability protection for us. This was recommended by ABMP, so we decided to go with that. And then I think what we're going to do is, if a client is a repeat client after they've filled this out and then they come in for another session, we're going to have a smaller version of this form that just ask the screening questions on a laminated, on a laminated form that they can just check off, and they have to answer no. And we will let them know that if they answer yes to any of those questions, that we would have to cancel the appointment. So once the client arrives, this is the instruction for the desk staff. Once the client arrives, well, obviously they have to wear their mask, that we ask them to fill out this waiver. We also we are asking clients to wash their hands prior to the start of the massage. We will be providing hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes in every room. So if they didn't do that, there's the disinfectant wipes as well. Also requesting that they leave their shoes at the bottom of the stairs. Our treatment rooms are upstairs. And then informing the guest of where their waiting area options are. So just kind of really a lot of communication, right? Staying on top of the communication, so that everybody's clear about what to do. Prior to the session, here's a couple of those other signs I was talking about. Those are the door hanger signs and the sign about hanging up their clothes. Obviously, a touchless greeting when the client arrives. No hugs, just wave, which also it's going to feel very strange for all of you massage therapists. Instructing the client to remove their shoes at the bottom of the stairs. And then once they get into the room doing the intake, this is another reason to space those sessions out 30 minutes. It gives the therapist and the client ample time to kind of talk about these additional safety precautions. So really communicating well with the client, like letting them know that the rooms are sanitized between sessions, but point out that we do have those disinfectant wipes. We'll keep those on the guest table, and that they are free to wipe down any surfaces again, to put them at ease if they feel they need to do that. And I really like that suggestion because, as we know, everybody has different tolerance levels for or thresholds for cleanliness. And the last thing we want is the client laying on the table kind of fretting over, I know they said it was clean, but was it really? So this way it puts some control in their hands to help make the space as comfortable as possible for them. And then to have the mask conversation. Again, reiterating that the therapist will be wearing theirs throughout the session, that they have again, this conversation is up for debate here. We might change this, but to ask the client, if really just find out where they are with it. And I would make the suggestion to, they cannot wear it face down, but to put it back on when they turn supine. Inform the client that we will not be touching their face, but if they want face work, that the therapist will put on gloves for that portion of the session. Remind them to put their clothes on the hooks. And then this I thought was another great suggestion, that giving the client a verbal indicator when, let them know as you're leaving the room that you're going to step out, wash your hands. Also that the doorknob will be sanitized prior to re-entering. And that when the therapist comes back into the room, and they don't have to say this verbatim. I mean, obviously, the first time you talk to a client, I think upon reopening, the conversation is going to be very thorough. But as that client keeps coming back, I think it'll just be important to kind of hit the touchstones, and not necessarily have to do the same length of an intake as prior. But then to give a verbal confirmation when you re-enter the room that, okay, I've washed my hands. So again, just another way to put the client at ease, so that they can actually settle in and enjoy their massage rather than being worried about sanitation. So there's our pre-session protocol. Mid-session here, I'm sure a lot of you probably saw this video. There were a couple of these circulating about, sort of the state of body work in the new COVID era. I've told my staff a full, oh goodness, it looks like my screen just went black. So, oh, we don't want to do that. Sorry about that. Let's get back to our presentation here. Now the video is just playing. Oh, remember that music? There we go. We'll pause that. Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Wait, it really wants to skip that. It wants to skip that slide and play this video. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Okay. Mid-session. Definitely for the MT to wear their apron and mask at all times. Also, if you have windows in your treatment rooms, we do have windows in every room. So we're asking them to keep at least one window open to help the air circulation in the room. We already do this, but it's just a reiteration to use 1 ramekin of massage cream per client so as to avoid cross-contamination. I don't want my therapist getting lazy about that, but they're all very good about it. So, and we also have the tongue depressor wooden sticks as well in every room. And just a reminder to be mindful not to touch anything unnecessary during the massage. If you do find yourself, say you found that you touched your face, or to apply hand sanitizer during the massage before continuing. And then also, if the client is wearing a mask, checking in with them about that mask comfort. As most of us know, those face cradles are not the most comfortable and easy to breathe through to begin with. So just making sure you're checking in about that, and also to just move to neck and shoulder work in the side lying position if that really feels like the safest move for both you and the client. And also, somewhere along the way, I recommend during that session to just remind yourself what a gift to humanity you are. We're really it's such an incredible service that we provide, and I don't want anybody to lose sight of that. So post-session, as you can see, to our friend Tallulah here, she's very satisfied with herself, as she should be. So when the therapist leaves the room, obviously wash hands and arms for at least 20 seconds, scrub up past the elbow. As when they go downstairs, to give a touchless goodbye to the client. Again, seems odd now that we've just touched their entire body, but we don't want to jump back into any hugs at this point, unfortunately. To go back upstairs, remove the sheets and the blanket. We'll have gloves in every room, so certainly they're welcome to wear gloves to do that. And then they can put that in the mesh bag to transport downstairs. Wipe down all the surfaces, light switches, extra wipe down of the table edges, face cradle, the client's table, basically all the surfaces. Take the laundry downstairs. Once the laundry is put away, the next step to remove the apron, wash your hands again, put on the clean apron. Again, kind of really thinking about the germ transmission, right? So it's important to kind of follow these steps in order so as to avoid spreading any viruses or germs. And then once they're kind of disinfected themselves with a clean apron, clean hands, then they could go back upstairs, put the fresh linens on the table, all the while being very mindful not to touch their face. So that's the post-session. Here are some of the general safety and cleaning protocols. We will have a printed out schedule for our front desk team we're thinking a 30-minute cleaning schedule. We're going to have hand sanitizer and wipes and spray disinfectant everywhere. So we're really going to encourage them to follow that strict schedule, and they'll have to sign off on those 30-minute intervals that all of that has been done. Again, being mindful of the distancing, trying to keep 6 feet apart. We've removed testers from our boutique. So we have a little sign up that says that those are now by request only. Reminder to the staff to keep all those air purifiers on in the rooms and to keep windows open. We do have the luxury of having lots of windows in our retail boutique, so that's nice. We can keep those open. And then we'll have gloves available for the desk staff to wear when handling the laundry as well. And then to wash their hands thoroughly prior to cleaning or to folding the clean laundry. We did consider switching to a laundry service, but I have desk staff that really love doing laundry. So they actually lobbied for me to not get a service. Oh, blankets are another thing. We purchased lighter weight blankets in bulk so that we can change those out every session as well. These are just a few examples of some ways that we are communicating with our clients about all this. So when we are ready to reopen, we're going to send out an email campaign notifying them, and that will include all these updates to our policies and protocols. We'll update our website with all of that information as well. And we've also changed our auto emails, the booking confirmations and reminders also to include this information. So those are some of the ways that we have, we just really feel that in order to have our guests feel good about coming back to the spa, they're going to need to hear from us about what we're doing to ensure their health and safety. So really want to make sure we stay on top of the communication. Here's a few resources that I mentioned earlier. That's the link to iSpa, their reopening toolkit, as well as ABMP's Back to Practice Guide, both excellent resources for you. And then Watson CPA Group, they have some good information. They're just a great resource generally for all things finance and tax related. So full disclaimer, they are our accountants, but I'm not getting any kickbacks for for pointing you to their blog, but they really have a lot of great information specifically on the PPP loan process and forgiveness. So if you're out there searching for information about that, they have some great insight to it. And like I said, we'll be sending out this presentation to all of you who are attending. So if you don't catch this now, then you'll get that in an email when we are done. All right, well, that's the end of my section of the presentation. So Tallulah has lots of answers for you. I'll be channeling Tallulah. So
hi, Jen.
Yeah, let me get back over to Dawn here.
Fantastic. I hope everybody can hear me. Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Great. Fantastic. Okay, so Jen, we have some questions in the webinar chat room. So I'm just going to go ahead and fire them off to you. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So we have a question from Tammy Helen, and she's asking, have you thought about charging a COVID surcharge? There are so many additional costs and we can't do it as many clients in a day, so we're considering it. What are your thoughts on that, Jen?
Wow, great question.
Yeah,
we have not, I haven't really considered that. At this point, I don't think that we will implement that primarily because, obviously COVID has presented a significant financial setback for a lot of people, individuals as well. And so we really want to continue to make the services as accessible financially as possible. We'll have to kind of wait and see, I suppose, how if we start struggling more than we are now, we might consider implementing that. But at this time, no, we haven't considered that.
we have another question from Haley Motagi, and she's asking, will you pay your therapist no-shows given that you're waiving cancellation fees?
I
Question.
actually hadn't really thought about that. Right now, so we actually, for our team, we give them an option on how to get paid if a client no shows, so they can stay and do additional work, folding laundry or dusting or whatever, and get paid their massage rate for that. We actually had a lot of issues anyway with not being able to capture credit cards and keep them on file. So we've already had the experience of not being able to recoup any of that cost, but still paying our therapist. So I'm guessing right now the policy will remain the same, which is that the therapist will still get paid for the no-show. But we'll have to just wait and see how many people end up late canceling at the last minute. So that might have to be a conversation with the team if it turns out we have a lot of people canceling last minute for which we are not collecting any fees. Great question.
Yes, all the questions have been excellent. Jessica Hong has a question. How much time in between appointments do you think is necessary for therapists to clean and set up for the next client? Actually, you kind of answered that.
Yeah, I mean, like I think 30 is plenty. Like we already had a 15-minute buffer, which is different than a lot of places. So our staff is already used to having a bit of extra time. So I'm thinking that additional 15 on top of what they're already used to having, working at a relatively comfortable pace for client turnover, that the 30 minutes will be ample for them, especially since we'll have all those supplies ready and available for them. They don't have to go hunting around for any of that. So I'm thinking that'll be enough time.
Great. We have another question from Halle Matagi again. Do you send offer letters to rehire your staff? There's 3 questions. What kind of air purifiers do you recommend? And what kind of air purifier do you suggest?
Oh, with regard to the air purifier, honestly, I just, as much as I hate to support Jeff Bezos anymore, but I did buy them on Amazon because I needed to buy 5 of them. I wasn't too concerned about necessarily getting like the top of the line, because the air purifiers, they're not for stopping coronavirus transmission. They don't trap coronavirus. It was really kind of, our rooms tend to get a bit musty and, stale between clients anyway. So it was just a way to kind of help keep the air nice and fresh and clean. And also it's just, I think, provides some more reassurance to the guests, right, to see those. So I don't have a particular recommendation on one, unfortunately. I just kind of picked one that looked sort of middle of the line. And then what was the other question, Dawn? About, rehire letters, basically.
Offer letters to rehire your
Yes,
staff.
I will be, once we know our opening date, I am going to send out a letter to the team basically saying that, your job is available again, you're off temporary furlough. It's best to have everything in writing. Mm-hmm. Everything should be in writing. So yes, I will be doing that.
Perfect. Beth Sanger asks, I'd love to learn more about the lightweight blankets you bought in bulk.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but I can add that to the resource link to the PowerPoint before we send that out. I bought them from the same linen supplier that we buy all of our sheets. So can't remember their name off the top of my head, but I'll include that in the PowerPoint.
That's great. And Heidi Harrison, actually, she had a similar question. She asked about any of the resources, cleaning products and light blankets. So we'll make sure, Heidi, that we add that as well.
Yeah, and actually, I also researched that. I pulled up the full list of EPA registered cleaners and disinfectants. I'm a bit of a research nerd, so it's a blessing and a curse also. But I was specifically looking for ones that had some level of plant-based, rather than being overly chemically and unpleasant to smell, but were still considered effective. So there were only, I think, 2 or 3 on that list. So I will also include that. Bioesque, Bioesque, is one of the companies, and that's the brand that I bought. It wasn't easy to find, and it was definitely more expensive than the others, but it's time, like the herb thyme, it's time based. So
great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
I will include that as well.
Yes, perfect.
I hope somebody's making note of these. Maybe Sam or Dawn are making note of these that we need to get added so I don't forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sam is, I believe, taking notes. Okay, great. And then let's see, we've got another question from Gina Tibbs. How are you going about recreating a schedule without knowing when you will be open?
Mm. Yes, so my GM is staying in contact with the team prior to she's already been working with them about the schedule and kind of finding out like who wants to stay, do people kind of want to stay with the same schedule? Um, we extended our hours a little bit. We were already open 7 days a week, and I know that's not true for all of you. And we're open 9 to 9, basically, with the exception of Mondays. We're only open a half day. But what we'll be doing is, for instance, if there's 2 therapists on in the morning shift, and that means I have 2 available slots, right? Again, we have 4 treatment rooms. And say we only have 2 in the PM as well, we would ask the AM's crew if they wanted to extend their shifts. So typically our shifts are only 9 to 3. So we would basically give the staff the option to extend that to, say 5 or 6, knowing that with that 30-minute buffer, it's not like they're going to be seeing 8 clients in that time. But yeah, that is tricky, but we're essentially just going to keep with the same schedule for the most part that we had prior to closure. And then we'll have to just wait and see if we need to adjust that, because we really don't know what to expect with regard to client volume.
Great. Thank you, Jen. We have another question from Yarlin Farrer. What type of aprons are you using for the massage therapist is the first question. And then would you please share the vendor that you are using for your PPE?
Like what bank? Oh, so the apron will also include that. I don't know off the top of my head. That might have been another Amazon purchase. I bought them in bulk for sure. But they're just, shorter. I didn't want to get those really long ones I didn't want those to inhibit movement. So they kind of come down to like the hips, I think. I think they have pockets. And they're just cotton, that easily washable. So those were the aprons. I'll include that as well. The PPP loan we got through we bank with a local bank. So we got our loan through them, Santa Cruz County Bank. They've been great to work with. But like everybody else, they don't necessarily have none of us have great information about the forgiveness piece, but I have been staying in contact with my rep over there to get any information that they have.
Fantastic. We have another question from Heidi Harrison. How do you think I'm concerned about hygiene of the face? It says face rest. Oh, face rest. Disposable face rest covers don't fully cover the surface. Cloth sometimes slip.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry. And will disinfectant ruin the vinyl over time?
Right. That is an issue. We don't we don't know. We've never quite scrubbed them to the degree that we are going to be. Which I did consider, looking into like disposable and trying to kind of almost double wrap it. So like a disposable one first and then with a cloth one. We might still go with that option, but I just am going with the thorough disinfecting option for now, but I'm going to have to wait and see how it responds. That was another reason for wanting to try to find a more plant-based disinfectant, hoping that it would be gentler on the material for the table, but it remains to be seen.
Great.
Yeah.
Tammy Hillen had a question. Are you paying differently because of the extra time between clients?
No, not right now. We haven't addressed that. Again, I think that we're going to kind of need to wait and see what the impact is to the business. If we're not, if we don't have a high enough volume of business, we might actually consider, I don't know yet. I was going to say maybe even shortening the hours, kind of consolidating people into shifts. But as of right now, I have not we have not planned on paying them certainly any less. So we were already, like I said, we kind of already were used to taking that little extra hit financially by booking our sessions with that extra 15 minutes. So we book like we do 60-minute hours, not 50. So we do 60 minutes plus that 15. So we're already kind of used to having to deal with that, but we'll just have to wait and see. I haven't, as of right now, I'm paying my staff the same.
Great. It looks like it says, I think the PPE was for supplies, and I was wondering the same thing. I cannot find any disinfectant wipes, etc. anywhere.
Yeah, those have been tough to find. And actually, if you haven't done so already, I placed my orders in the beginning of May. So like my massage warehouse actually was one of the only places I could find that had some like disinfectant wipes and sanitizers. And I placed that order on April 30th. It was supposed to ship. They said it was going to be back in stock May 1st. And I just got a notice a couple of days ago that it said it shipped. So if you haven't done it already, definitely order your supplies now because they could take several weeks. If I come across, when I'm putting together the rest of these resources, I'll take a look at some of the places that I've been looking, and I'll see if I can provide you with a couple of resources. You know, maybe there are some places I've looked that you haven't thought to look. Some of the more like industrial supply places have better stock, but I'll see what I can dig up for you.
Jen, I just had Gail from Evo Spa.
Hi, Gail.
She actually just made a comment and said, you can get the wipes at Universal Companies.
Okay.
So whoever, yeah, so for everybody, FYI, Universal Companies.
Thank you, Gail.
Yes, thank you, Gail. All right, and then we have another question here from Kathy Quast. Do you feel a cloth mask is adequate for the MTs, or would you choose a surgical flat mask to change after every session?
We have surgical masks available. So yeah, and I've talked to the team about what they have. I actually was going to try to find, I mean, you certainly can't find any N95s. I mean, we're reserving those for healthcare workers, but you know, our massage therapists really are healthcare workers, just not on the same, certainly not, I'm not suggesting that the nurses and doctors shouldn't take precedence over securing those N95 masks, but I did look for masks that were a bit more thorough in the face covering, even than the surgical ones, because they tend to kind of pouch out at the side. And most of the cloth masks tend to get a better coverage, but you're right. Then there's the issue of changing them over. So that's actually a good point. And I think that we might look into then getting cloth ones that can be changed over every session. And I think most of my team, one of them is a seamstress and she's been sewing masks like crazy. So we might explore getting bulk cloth masks that they can swap out.
Yeah,
And that can then be
wash.
Yeah.
Shelly Costantini, very sweet comment. She said, this has been really helpful, Jen. I appreciate you all taking the time to share. Also, it's just nice spending time with like-minded people. I'm sorry, I had to.
Yes.
Thank you, Shelly.
Thank you.
And then we have one from Kathy Quas. Do you, oh no, I'm sorry. Shelly Costanini again. I thought about adding barbicide to baby wipes. Any thoughts?
Huh. Kind of create your own disinfectant wipes?
Yeah, actually.
I hadn't really thought about that. I suppose if you can't find wipes anywhere, it's sounds better than not having any at all. But no, I don't, maybe other people can weigh in on that. I have gotten all the supplies to create our own hand sanitizer though, following CDC guidelines. And actually the FDA has a formula on their website because they're allowing other manufacturers to make hand sanitizer following their formula. So I am going to make some, not to resell, but to provide for the team because that's been in short supply for the team and the clients.
Perfect. Okay, and then it says iSpa is recommending from Kathy Klost. iSpa is recommending going cashless, but you're still considering taking cash, is the question.
Um, we get very little cash as it is. Most of the cash that changes hands is our tips. And so that's why we're moving to the tip envelopes, which we'll leave in the room on the guest table so that, but we do, now that we do keep credit cards, I think what we will definitely try to, we'll probably talk to the client about just running their credit card that we have on file for their service so that we can avoid any additional handling of cards. And unfortunately, our point of sale system is about a bit antiquated. We're with MindBody. I won't get started on that rant. If there's any MindBody reps listening right now. They are kind of in the dark ages with regard to like chip readers and contactless payment methods. So we are just going to do our best to, whenever possible, just run the card that we have on file to avoid changing over of cards.
Jen, so there's like 25 more questions, but I think the best thing for us to do in terms of time, so we want to be respectful to everybody, is that I'm just going to we'll do 2 more, and then all the other questions, we'll make sure that we get them answered. We'll type them through this channel. And then Jen, you obviously will recap with all of the resources and all the items that people are requesting from us. So just really quick, there's a question here from Doreen Zayer. Are they paid during those 30 minutes?
So we also have a bit of a unique compensation structure in our business. That's why we have like a 12-page employment agreement drafted by our lawyers, because we pay them only per session, but they are not required to stay on site. So we don't do, walk-ins. And then if they happen to have, it's pretty rare now that people will have long gaps between their appointments. But they're free to leave during that time. And if they've left, then we still give them a 1-hour lead time to return to the spa. Our situation is a bit different. I have been now, though, considering, in light of all this, and mostly because paying therapist piece rate is really difficult when it comes to calculating for unemployment, for sick pay. So it's fees. I mean, I can do it. I've done it a lot, but it's a lot of administrative time. So anyway, long story short on that is, I think what I might do is convert everybody to, I know what their average is. I've had to calculate everybody's hourly rate average over the past 6 months based on number of sessions they did. So now that I have that number, I think I could pretty easily convert people to hourly, so that yes, they would be getting paid, because they will be working for a good portion of that, right? Doing all that cleaning and sanitizing. So yes, they would be, but I don't know that I can afford to be paying them, $30 an hour during that time. So I have not quite gotten to the financial piece, but now that you guys are all bringing, or the compensation piece, but since everybody's bringing it up, I need to get on that and sort of do more number crunching to kind of figure out what that's going to look like.
Maybe that could be webinar 2.
Yeah.
Second.
The finance piece.
Yes. Exactly, the financials. Okay, last question, because I think this is a good one too. Mary Ringel asked, have you considered using UV light to sanitize rooms after business hours?
Yeah, I looked into that as well, like those UV wands, or even actually having, like, they make those towers, UV towers. I sort of abandoned that because I was reading the downsides to using UV, which it's not, obviously not safe to do with people around. I hadn't really considered after hours though, so I might revisit that. But yeah, that was just kind of what I determined, looking in between. I'm hoping that given how much airflow that we can have, and with all the additional sanitizing protocols, that will be sufficient to keeping the space clean and sanitized.
Thanks everyone so much. And we will, as Dawn shared, do our very best to get all these questions answered. And Jen, amazing presentation. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Dawn, wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Please
Thank
look
you.
forward to our second one. You'll get the little sneak peek. We'll be communicating with you and staying in touch. So hopefully you all gained a wealth of knowledge from today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and healthy.